Okay, so now, Dr. Vinita, expanding your horizon, navigating the path to international examinations.
So obviously this talk was mostly for younger generation who would be looking for international examinations, but I don't find many people sitting here. Still, I'll talk about it. I'll be going very brief about it. So basically, why consider international examinations? It gives you enhanced career opportunities outside India. You get access to global jobs, as I said. It recognizes your skills outside India. Even in India also, it gives you credibility and validation of your expertise. It gives you more network opportunities of interacting with your international peers and mentors. And besides that, the thing which I gained, it gives you a personal growth and a lot of confidence. And obviously, if you're looking at international markets, there's a very, very high scope of increasing your earning potential as well. So for the knowledge and the skill aspect, as I said, for me, this was a thing which, when I started taking my exams, this was the first thing which I realized it dramatically changed my knowledge perspective. The way we approach patients, the way we take the examinations was very, very different when I took my examinations. From India, it was very vastly different. So those tips I have still, and it became a part of my daily practice of using those tips which I learned while taking my own exams as very practical tips for me. And it has also helped me in continuously updating and upgrading myself because of the various websites and various links which are available to me as a fellow of their colleges. And also enhance my writing skills for the exams as well as the communication skills. So these are the added advantage. Now, before anybody plans for it, one has to decide how much time to have. Is it worth it? Because it requires a lot of money, time, and the zeal, obviously. Does it add to my qualification? Are you actually looking for it? Is it just another exam? And when should I apply? So, as I've already talked about, lots of pros, which are the different levels of knowledge, better job opportunities. You get better job opportunities, especially in the teaching and education institutions outside the country as well. For me, it was joy of giving exams as well, and the post-nominal degrees, which you always get after your name. So you get to add so many things. But the negative downside of it obviously is the cost. These exams are all costly, especially considering our currency differences. So common challenges which you'll face if you're planning to move out with these exams is obviously adapting to different cultural environments outside your country. The language barriers maybe there is for some of the countries, not always, because most of the countries are English speaking. Balancing work and study, because out there, unlike in India, we get lots of servants to do our works or help for us, which we will not get outside. And the most important challenge which you have to while taking the examinations is to step out of your comfort zone, because you'll have to manage all the things together. So before you apply, do a lot of observation, do a lot of research, and then plan who are your role models, what are you looking at, that you have to first decide. Which examination, which country are you planning to go to if you are planning of a long-term future to move outside India. So looking at these various international examinations, we have the fellowship examinations in the Royal College from United Kingdoms, we have it from the Australia, and we have from the American board mainly. And understanding the exam format for most of these exams is similar. They have initial written exams, which could be in the form of multiple choice questions, some essays questions, and then we'll have their oral examinations with a clinical component as well as an OSCE type of component, which is like more of a structured oral component. And then it is important to learn how to pace your exams, because these exams can be taken at maybe in 1 year you can finish the entire exams, or if you want to pace them at a slower pace, that you have to decide for your own self. Preparing for examinations, you have a lot of study resources available, recommended textbooks, online for each type of set of examinations, access to various question banks, test papers are there of the past. Then there are various study groups which have been created, which are there, and lots of clinical training groups are also not there. And in fact, in India, with a group of people, have started conducting courses which are for the oral exams as well recently. So, and also if you attend various workshops and seminars where we talk about these courses, that's also happening. It depends, like people in some places are being given institutional support. Like I have known people somewhere in Arvind and all, they were getting some institutional support for taking the basic exams, if I say part 1 and all. I don't know whether it is there right now. I'm talking about almost 10 years back, they had some institutional support. Otherwise, you have free online platforms, you have paid online platforms. And outside the country, there are some people who do get, even if people from UK, if they're planning to take some US exams, they get some support from their own institutions. So let's talk about the US thing. The fellowships, overall, the quality of training is obviously very good out there. And gives you a very, very wide perspective of things. They have long-term fellowships, they have short-term fellowships. Whether you want to go just for fellowships, whether they want to go for residency programs, it would totally depend upon that. For fellowships, for US, it is mandatory to have a USMLE if you want to do ophthalmology. So you have to have USMLE or a certified ECFMG, as we used to call it earlier, which is mandatory, and except for people from California and Pennsylvania, or people try to go to Canada, because if you get a Canadian degree and then go to the Canadian route, then the US people do not ask for your ECFMG. So that is the exemption you get. For Canada, obviously, people are more from India. It's easier to move to Canada as compared to US. It's extremely friendly, and it's more of an Indianized. Since I've been recently to Canada, I realize it's more of an India. It's like the second India there. So direct applications are also accepted out there. So that's the advantage of being there. And once you get the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario licensing, you can practice there if you want to settle back there. For England, it is the most favored because, first of all, the language issues was not there. Then the courses available are widely available. And nowadays, the biggest advantage is they have started conducting all the exams in India. So you need not waste your money on travel to take the exams, which I did in my times when I took the exams. And also, a PLAB is not required anymore now. So it's even if you're taking direct examinations for ophthalmology, FRC Opt or FRCS of Glasgow or Edinburgh, you are exempted for PLAB if you want to go and practice later on there. Then we also have the Singapore, the Asian academies, the Singapore and the Hong Kongs, which are giving the Asia Pacific Academy of Ophthalmology fellowships. And again, the FRC, but in these, the added advantages, we already have the UK degrees, you are exempted. You can directly just go into the system and get the license. So that is the advantage if you have your UK fellowships. For Australia and New Zealand, again, that is the advantage. If you have your UK fellowships or UK qualifications, you can directly go to Sydney, Australia and New Zealand. Otherwise, you can go to the direct system as well, but through the RANSCO, which is the Royal College of Australia and New Zealand Physicians. Dubai, again, you have a single fellowship exam. You can go through the ICO route, or you can go through the FRCS and the FRC of, again, the UK fellowship examinations. And if you're going to UAE or Dubai, any of the places in UAE, you get an extra edge in terms of your money potential, job opportunities also. Because if you're going from India and you do not have the UK fellowships, you are paid less as compared to a person who's paid better if you have a UK fellowship. So that is an added advantage for UAE if you're planning to shift to UAE. And these ISO fellowships obviously give you an added advantage because it gives you some exemption from the part 1 of the FRCS examinations. And also, if you want to go and actually do 3 months fellowships, it gives you a free access to those 3 months fellowships, which are short-term training for a subspecialty training. And then you have various institutes which offer you long-term research fellowships. I've listed the premier ones out here. Most of them are from US, and the one in UK is the Moffitt Eye Hospital. So this is just a chart where whether you want to go to England. As I said, PLAB is not required now. If you can directly take MLE, would still be required if you want to move to US or Canada. RANSCO is for Australia. And for Dubai, again, you can just directly, within FRCS, get an exemption there. And same was for Singapore, directly applications are allowed. These are the various websites I've just listed there for various colleges. So you can, if you want, you can have an access to these, all the information which I have told you is available on the websites of the individual countries. For the Royal College, since I am trained, I have all taken my Royal College examinations as well as the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow. So I'll just giving an advantage of it. As I've already mentioned earlier, that it gives you a better remuneration in the Middle East. It's accepted valid degree in all the Asia as well. Then also in Australia and New Zealand. Then, and obviously that's your post-nominal initials as it did for me. So for the fellowship examinations, these fellowship examinations, earlier we had the MRCS. FICO is still there, which is a 3-step examination, part 1, part 2, step 1, step 2, and step 3. And step 1 is basics. Step 3 is basically the advanced MCQs, which allows you to once you clear this, you have an access to the fellowship of 3 months, which I told you, given by the ICO, the International Council of Ophthalmology. And also it exempts you from the part 2, the first step of part 2 of the FRCS Glasgow and the Edinburgh. So let's talk about the FRCS in Edinburgh. It is a 3-step, again the 3 exam pattern, part 1, part 2, part 3. Same for FRCS Glasgow, part 1, part 2, part 3. So part 1 is basically MCQs only. Part 2 is MCQs plus a problem-based questions, which is sort of an essay questions. And part 3 is totally orals, which has 2 components, as I said, a structured component, which is oral vivas, and second part, which is actual clinical exam when you're dealing with the patients. And for the FRCOFT, again, they have a part 1, which is, again, totally a theoretical exam, but again, it has lots of practical questions. The part 1 of FRCS is different from the part 1 of FRCOFT in that way that part 1 of FRCS is only basic ophthalmology, basics pathology, basic everything related to basic sciences. But in this part 1 of FRCOFT, they're all actually adding all equipment at armamentarium, which we deal as equipments for our ophthalmological examinations. So you're supposed to know the basic principles as well as the interpretation of those. And then we have the part 2 for this. This has only a part 2, and in between that they have a refraction certificate. So this is the added thing which is there in the FRCOFT. They want to ensure that you know your refractions also very well. So they have a part, in between the part 1 and the part 2, there's a refraction certificate which you have to clear, and then you have the part 2, which again has a written and an oral component. So these are the advantages of taking these exams. If you want to work outside, as I said, obviously your salary structure will be much, much higher for these various fellowships things. So if you're ready to take the plunge, it is better, So these are the various types of remuneration you get when you're doing the fellowships. If you want to take their exams, and once you become a consultant, the remuneration almost triples from these, what you get during the fellowships. So in the end, I would just like to say, once you're ready to take the plunge, embrace the challenge, you have to plan well, you will need help of your family, friends. You want to decide whether you want to build a career out of it, or you're just taking it for, as I did, for adding my nominal degrees or nominals to my degrees, and for the fun of taking the exams, and for purpose, the main purpose was for learning. Chart a timeline. ICO, if you have, as I told you, it will be an asset. Talk to people who have had their successes in these exams, because these are the success stories which are very, very motivating. Take experience from your own alumni who have taken these exams. Take away from the journeys. And finally, you would be able to make it. Thank you. Because in the end, there's always light once you have the motivation. Thank you. Yeah, that's how I said. See, you have to plan well. Fear of failing is there because they have almost 1/3 only pass. 1/3, in fact, 20% pass rate when I take my exams now. Since they're counting, since I'm an examiner for the exams being conducted in India now, what I've realized, there was a system called as Hofsey scoring method, which is basically they analyze the data of the previous exam, they give the marking, and then okay, this is the lowest mark, this is the highest mark. And based on the probability, how much were below and then there's an average, how much were below, how much were above, they mark each question accordingly. This is the Hofsey method which they use. So for the Indian system, because the guidelines which are laid down by the Royal Colleges are very different from what we pursue in a normal practice. So those guidelines, there you have to answer each and every management according to the guideline which is given by the colleges, because that is how they practice. Here, even if the candidate is not answering, we give a leverage to that. We are told to give a leverage for that. So that's why it's become a little bit easier now, I would say that.
Acha, Dr. Vinita, you just mentioned that pass rate is 20% to 30%.
Yes.
Okay. So those 70
Sir, in
to
India
80,
it was 50% last time, so it has increased.
No, so then what happens to the other candidates who have not been successful? They leave this course or they stay
No, sir,
on?
those who are in the system, because for people who are studying and doing the residencies in the
so
system, they will have to complete
sooner
it
or
because
later,
we're
everybody will complete it. Just that they'll require multiple attempts.
Yes, yes. So you have they will continue to take attempts. And for people in UK, I know the system. If they are given a minimum chances of 4 attempts, and for every attempt, a feedback goes to the trainers.
Okay.
To improve upon their performance.
Another
so that
point.
feedback goes on for the residency program, people who are already into the residency systems there.
Yeah. So another modification is required in the slides when you mentioned about Canadian visa. I was talking to Stevie Archinov. He is supposed to come for, the Rohit Om Prakash's meeting and other meetings. He said very difficult to get a visa from Canada. So now things have changed. So your slide said it is a cakewalk and all that. It was earlier on, but now they just don't let you. It's a very,
this
very
is because
difficult.
recently it has happened because of the Canadian thing, no?
So that is it.
Yeah,
the next talk.
Recently, recently it has happened. It's happened just 1 month back. We had a problem in our WOC presenter. For everybody, it was a problem.